Sean Moses is ready to give the young royals in your life a lesson on Black history like none you've ever heard. This story about an incredible young man is full of heart and is sure to make you smile. Sean Moses is asked to play Martin Luther King Jr. for his school's Black History Month program. It's the leading role, and he's ready to go. Except there's one problem. No matter how hard his parents try, Sean Moses keeps calling him Martin Luther the King. This is going to be a history lesson like none you've ever experienced, as Sean Moses explains why he's right to call Martin Luther King Jr. a king. Readers will be introduced to a group of distinguished Black leaders like Frederick Douglass, President Barack Obama, Thurgood Marshall, Sergeant William Carney, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and the King, MLK Jr. Enjoy this story with your little ones, share rich history in an entertaining new way, and open up a conversation with your children about the power of Black culture. This book is your opportunity to remind your loved ones how they are indeed descended from royalty. Long live the King! Sean Moses is Martin Luther the King Jr. is available through Amazon or wherever books are sold. A child's first birthday is a momentous occasion and one that should be cherished for years to come. The One Book by Moses D. Powe is a fun children's picture book that shows the excitement of celebrating this major milestone in your baby's life. This book will help you instill a love of reading in your child at an early age. Your child will learn important concepts such as counting, telling time, party prep, planning, celebration, and bedtime. All things your child will be able to understand and enjoy seeing in picture form. Order anywhere books are sold.
Thank you for checking out Fatherless Fathers Podcast. I'm Moses D. Powe, CEO of Powe Publishers and author of The One Book and my brand new release, Sean Moses is Martin Luther the King Jr. These books are available through Amazon or wherever books are sold. Fatherless Fathers Podcast would like to welcome Dr. Ifeanyi Olele to the show. Dr. Olele is a psychiatrist, consultant, content creator, and medical director of Genesis Psychiatric Solutions, LLC. Welcome to the show, Dr. Olele.
Thanks for having me.
Good. Glad to have you on. So tell us a little bit about your professional background.
I went to the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. That's where I earned my Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine degree. Then I went to Larkin Community Hospital, where I did my 4 years of general psychiatry, and I was a chief psychiatry resident at the program. And then I've been practicing here in the DMV for almost like 5 years. And I've had various medical director leadership positions in different clinics in DC and Maryland. And now I have my own private practice where I service patients in Washington, DC, Alexandria, Virginia, Fairfax, and I'm also licensed in California and Florida. Yeah, so I'm pretty much, servicing a lot of people that have mental health needs, and I enjoy it. So.
And, I really enjoy, I said you're a content creator. I really enjoyed the content that you've been creating. If people would like to see some of the things that you do about mental health awareness, about your organization, how can they find out that information?
Yeah, so my website is, for my practice, is www.gpsmindset.com. And then on social media, you could follow me at Dr. Olele, spelled DoctorOlele. And you could also follow me at GPS Mindset. So there's two different ways to follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You just type in my name.
Well, when did you first realize that you wanted to become a psychiatrist?
This dated back to undergrad at UCLA. I was a psychobiology major, so I knew I was going to go in the mental health track. I didn't know if I was going to be doing family medicine or more psychiatry, but I knew off the bat I wanted to deal with something with behavioral health.
Mm-hmm. Is there a certain population within behavioral health that you prefer to work with?
Actually, I have my hands in different niches in mental health, but I do like the workplace mental health because most people are working. So that's where I do see a lot of patients who are struggling with, the stress from work and also the stress of lack of employment. So there's that as well. Or people who are entrepreneurs or C-suite executives, and they're dealing with the stressors of their job. So I do enjoy that, but I do enjoy sports mental health, women's mental health. And so in dealing with a lot of minorities or immigrants dealing with their mental health conditions. So I have my hands in different spots of mental health.
Yeah. And so, this podcast targets Black men who have been brought up in a home without their fathers. And, one of the things that we often hear about Black men is that we don't go and take care of our mental health. Have you found this to be true? Are Black men not taking care of their mental health issues?
Here's the thing, Black men are starting to do that. And there's like a movement, because now that they're seeing each other saying it's okay not to be okay and going to spaces where they could get mental health treatment. I've worked with a majority of Black men in my different medical director positions at different clinics, and they just want to be right mentally because they know that if they get their mental health correct, it's going to impact their occupational lives and their personal lives. So there is a big movement of men, now seeking medication management, therapy. And so the stigmas are slowly breaking.
What things should be considered when people provide treatment to Black men?
Judgment-free zone, and don't put to the wayside what they're expressing. Allow them to be at a space to be vulnerable and a safe space, because when a Black man is talking about his issues, it could be about race, trauma, or anything, and you have the built-in notion, oh yeah, you have to be Black men are strong, you have to, or whatever negative stereotypes a person has of Black men, that's where you're going to automatically lose them as a patient or client. And just being culturally competent is important. You don't have to be a Black mental health provider. You could be of any race or any gender, but as long as you're culturally competent and give them the space to talk, vent, be vulnerable, that's the building of a good, therapist, client relationship or patient-doctor relationship.
A lot of men who listen to this podcast, who've been guests on this podcast, as I stated, are still dealing with, the void of not having their father in their life. Have you had a lot of experience with men who are dealing with abandonment issues, neglect issues, absence of their father? And what's the best way of working with that population?
Yeah, I've met even young boys, from kids all the way up to grown men who are senior citizens who deal with that. And it's a good situation where you go, when I see patients as a psychiatrist, I want to know them everything. And we talk about that, how that impacted their lives. Did they feel insecurities about that? Who were the men in their community or that stepped in and took that place? Or did their mothers remarry, or the uncles came in to help out? So there's different dynamics. And, as they say, all Black men are a monolith. So everybody has different experiences of how that impacts their mental health. Some use it as their way to move forward in life, and they have this chip on their shoulder and it keeps them going. And others didn't have the coping skills and it ate them up internally. So it all depends on, the coping skills and the way the man addressed that situation.
And so if you are dealing with the men who still have resentment, and it could be they've been carrying this 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years, what do you do? What's the key to helping these men work through resentment?
Yeah, first thing is I want to get to know them, going back to that root of it, how they felt, and acknowledge that. And then also see how it's impacted their relationships and get them to a point of at least forgiveness so they can move forward. You never forget. but at least a forgiveness. So you take away that power that their absent father had, but you allow them to regain their power and move forward. So it doesn't create cycles in future generations. So that way they're able to open their heart to being good fathers, good uncles. And so that's where we build it from, is just planting the seeds. And then I talk about all dimensions of their 8 dimensions of their wellness with them. So they know how there's different parts impacts them in their health, in their mental, physical and mental health.
Does spirituality play a role in healing?
Oh yeah. Spirituality is important. Like spiritual wellness is part of the 8 dimensions of wellness. And what spiritual wellness does is talk about either A, if you're a religious person, your faith, your connection with God, or even your purpose in life. If you're not religious, more so like how do you find yourself, your place on this earth, your country, your city, and your purpose. So I feel that's very important, because let's say if you are religious and you have faith, you have that connection between you and God is the one that directs your steps. And despite your struggles, you could always have a center to go back to, or a community, a church community, or mosque or temple, whatever your faith is, you have that as a center. But if you're a person that's not connected spiritually, but more spiritually, what things are you doing to be connected? Are you meditating, being one with like-minded people? Where do you find your time for your quiet space? And in general, for if you're religious or not, are you volunteering in the community? Are you giving back, paying it forward? And the spiritual life purpose is important, because that's your compass, and it allows you to move forward in life, and it keeps you alive and keeps you going when things don't go right. And it keeps you alive. And if you have a purpose, that could help you prevent like suicide or because you have a mission and you have protective factors. So spirituality is very important.
You mentioned suicide. For families who need help caring for someone who has lost their will to live, or possibly contemplating suicide, at risk for overdosing or whatever, what recommendations do you have for them?
Be close contact with that family member or friend that's contemplating suicide. Check on them, regular visits, but also encourage them to connect with their therapist, their psychiatrist, their family doctor, whoever, the nurse practitioner, whoever's the provider in their life. Make sure that they're always connected, and so that way they have all around care. But if it gets to the point where they're in immediate danger and risk, definitely have you may have to call 911, take them to the ER and see if they could get more help, because they're in crisis. And then there's the National Suicide Hotline, which is like 988. And so also providing them, but more so definitely with your family member, having a safety plan in place. Like if you're feeling down and you're by yourself, here's some numbers. Call if you have to call the emergency numbers, but for family members, say, hey, I need your help, or I need to talk. So that, and also speak with your providers, like saying, what is the mode of communication if I'm in crisis? So having a safety plan in place is huge.
Okay. And so you and I are both mental health providers. And so there are listeners who are providers who, like myself, may have dealt with some of the things that our clients are going through. What should we be doing to take care of our own mental wellness?
Oh, yeah. I think it's good for mental health providers to also have their own therapists, because we have our own life baggage, but we're also we're interceding for a lot of people. And so a lot of times when you're hearing all of these different stories, you could also have compassion fatigue. Some of the cases you're handling may trigger some unresolved emotions in you. And so I feel it's important that we have a therapist that we could go to, because that's the best way to do that for your mental health and emotional peace of mind. But then also doing things like exercising, eating right, creative expression, what things you could do to help you channel your creativity. Also, balancing your finances and being in a good environment where when you come home, you're in a peaceful, relaxful place, and it's your safe haven. So, and then also best thing too, if you have a family and you have children, make sure you connect with your children, because it's hard. Sometimes, like me personally, when I first started this, and I was because I gave all my energy during the day, seeing all my patients from like 9 to 7 or sometimes even 8. I'm spent, and I come and all the energy I have to give because I have to be on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coming home, I was like a zombie, and my wife was like, you got a family here too. So you got to keep that same energy.
Yes.
Your kids need you. I need you. So it's just like, yeah. So that's the part where, it comes like where I cannot check out all the time. I have to be present, but then I have to give myself moments. Like just like 2 hours ago, I just came back from a massage therapy. So that's the way I keep myself.
Yeah, so you need those.
Yeah.
Dr. Lele, telemental health service has been around for a while, but more recently during the pandemic, it has become like a main source of providing services or receiving services for people. For those people who are apprehensive about going in, seeing a doctor, seeing a mental health provider, do you recommend telemental health services?
Oh yeah, I do. And you know what's the thing? It's crazy. I'm glad you mentioned it. Before COVID, everybody was like apprehensive about coming in because they're like, who's gonna see me walk into the doctor's office? Or it's scary because you'll see some people in the waiting room, or when you're going in an elevator and people are like, oh, he's going to room 405, so we know he's got something, But now with when COVID happened, that exploded mental health services because now you could be discreet. You're just in a virtual waiting room, and you could be at your home or your office or even your car. I have patients who are not driving but parked, and they're talking to their provider. And telehealth opens access, and as long as you have a state license, that broadens reach to people that didn't have access before. And a lot of especially since the topic of Black men, they're like, you know what, let me give this mental health thing a try. I could talk to them on my laptop, my iPad, my phone, and I don't have to sit in the waiting room. I could be where I'm at in front of my TV or whatever and chill and talk to whoever I'm meeting. And so, yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm. There are people who, because of the trauma they've dealt with, they haven't received any services, have been hesitant about services, so they have found other ways to cope. And some of that may have been, substance use or other things. Do you treat men who have co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders? And, what's your approach to providing services to them?
Yeah, so what I do is I treat them at the level that I see them at, because when you're talking to them, you have to also make sure that you understand why they're self-medicating to whatever substance it is. So I'm usually sensitive to them on that and understand. I always want to know the reason why they're drinking or smoking or whatever they're consuming. And then we figure out what's going on. And then if there's something that may be where I feel they might need more intensive services, then I will say, hey, you know what? You might need to be in a partial hospitalization program where they can help you out. Or even further, we might need to get you into, a recovery program based off of the level of it. And there's a program here in the DMV area where for professionals, they're able to go in the evenings, 3 hours at a time every day, where they could also get those services so they don't have to go into the recovery place and be gone for 30 days because they have jobs. So I also provide them resources or connect them with therapists who have, substance specialty.
Mm-hmm. When people hear doctor, they may think, oh, I don't need medication. Doctor, psychiatrist, I don't need medication. I'm fine. When people come to see you, is it that they all have to take medication in order to see you? How does that work?
So I always say up front, whatever I'm telling you is a recommendation. I will tell you what I feel based off everything you told me but you don't have to see me for medication, because I tell them, even when they come for their visit, I'm like, you don't have to agree upon the medicine today. You don't have to walk out and have a prescription or let me send it electronically for you. I provide them drug information so they could do their research. I tell them the reason why. I tell them the benefits and the risks, which are side effects. And I'm very transparent with everything with them about the medication. and why I felt it. And I also go into family history just to, find out, let's say on your mother's side or your father's side, or in this situation with fathers, is there a history of mental illness that your relatives would have told you about your father if you didn't have contact or you didn't have a strong relationship? And they'll say, yeah, my dad had struggled with mental health and substance use. And then I'll say, okay, did your mother or your grandparents or whoever was in your life let you know what kind of meds they were on, or even on your mom's side, any problems? So I try to do a lot of digging right there about, family history of mental illness, what medications that worked and didn't work. And also I do a whole comprehensive evaluation. And then I tell them, based off what you're telling me, I feel that we could treat medication will help you out with this. And I explain the reasons why on the, biological side or the brain chemistry or whatnot. But then if they're hesitant about that, I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. Here, let me give you some referrals for some therapists who may be able to see you. And after a certain amount of time, if the therapy is not helping you out, come right back to me. But then I tell them, if a therapist referred you to me, more than likely they see that you need medication management. Mm-hmm. And then I say, let me collaborate with your therapist and we talk. And then more than likely than not, they're going with the medication.
Yeah. And I've had clients who I've referred to, psychiatrists all the time. And there are some clients who say, look, I have people in my family who've been on medication and they weren't the same. They seemed very drugged. They seemed like they were out of their mind. They seemed worse. I don't want medication getting me out of touch with who I am. I don't want to lose control of my thinking or control of my emotions. I don't want to be drugged out, sluggish. What do you say to people who have those concerns?
It's funny, like I think a couple of weeks ago, I made a video based on that, where people felt like they feel like a robot with the medication. If a medication makes you feel like a zombie or robot, that shouldn't be. You should be feeling better with the medication. And that's where you have to have that open dialogue with your doctor about what you're feeling. And my patients know, I tell them, you can hit me up anytime on our patient portal and I'll reply back to you. Do not wait till our appointment to let me know that this thing's making you feel like you're not yourself. Let me know immediately so I can respond back to you and we could work on it, find another option for you. Because with medication, it's not a perfect science. We do have to do different trials to see which dosing works, which medication works better. And a lot of times what I do for patients that have had failed medications, I do pharmacogenetic testing. And that allows me to see which medication may work well for them. It's not saying this is the perfect medication, but it gives us some insight of how their body breaks down the medication because we're looking at their genes interacting with the drugs. So that gives me some better insight. And so I do provide that service for my patients getting the pharmacogenetic testing.
Interesting. And I also hear there are people who are open to medication, but they'll say, I don't want to be a guinea pig. I don't want to be some research subject. But like you said, sometimes you have to do some adjusting to get the right medication combination. What do you say to those people who are open to taking medication, but they don't want you tweaking their medication and they don't want to be a research subject or guinea pig for medication?
Yeah, I hear that guinea pig thing all the time.
Yeah.
And but I try to be sensitive with them. Unless we have a good rapport, and then we'll laugh about it. But most of the time, I try to be sensitive with them. And I say, yeah, I can understand you're taking these pills, it doesn't work. But I say that's the only way. The doctor is trying to figure out what works. They're not happily. The doctors want you to be on less medications. I'll let you know right now, the less medications, the better. Mm-hmm. But if we have to do different combinations, we're going to have to do it to see. But I personally always inform them and say, okay, this is what happens with this medication. This is the reason why I'm doing this. This is FDA approved for this reason. And I'm doing this off label because I've had success with patients taking it off label for treatments. And then so I inform them and I always let them know we're collaborating together. So you're not a guinea pig. You're not a lab rat because I respect you as a human being. You're not an animal. You're a person that is trying to have a better quality of life. So that's why I'm helping you. Then I always let my patients know this. We have medication management. That's part of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. You have therapy. and then you have self-help interventions or lifestyle modifications. And if you look at that, this totality, that would be good. And with the hope of maybe we could get off medications if we, balance everything, give you the right coping skills, you're eating better, you're exercising, you're tapping into your creativity. And once we have that, then we're good. Some patients will be on medications short term. And I have other patients that need to be on meds for life, because when they come off of it, they're back to their self that causes impairment in work, in their social life, their finances. And when they're on it, they're stable. So I get a lot of, patients that tell me, they're saying, yeah, I don't want to be dependent on a medication. I'm like, well, if you had diabetes or high blood pressure and you've done all the lifestyle modifications and your blood pressure's still high, your cholesterol's still high, you're going to take the medication because it's a life-saving measure. It's going to keep you going. They're like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, you got to treat your mental health like that, because if you're not taking your meds or, correctly, there's chances where you could lose a job, you could possibly end a relationship, or even, self-medicate on substances, or even take your life. And so, and I know as practitioners, we're on the side of trying to normalize mental health, break those stigmas. And so that's where that people, most of the time, people are coming from.
When you have clients who say, I agree with you, Dr. Lilly, I'm going to try these medications, see if it works for me. And then, they get home, they're trying your medication for a couple of days, and they're like, I'm not feeling this medication. These side effects are horrible. I'm just going to stop taking it. Do you recommend that?
I always recommend them to let me know, because the side effects, I always let them know. There's some people that get it, some don't. If you do experience it, let me know. Like, for example, if you're having nausea from it, you may want to take it with food, but still consult your doctor about that. Or this is a big one for men specifically. A lot of men, when they're taking medications, and this is where I get a lot of dropout of medications, when they have lower libido, they have delayed ejaculation, or they have erectile dysfunction. That's the quickest way for that.
Yes.
An active sex life, that, to drop out taking a medication. So I always tell my men, since the purpose of talking with men, I always tell them, if you're having this issue, let me know. I'm not trying to mess things up with you and your significant other or partner. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to help you out. If you do notice that, I don't want to wreck that part of your life. I will gladly switch you to something else that may not do that. And so I always let them know. And once they know because a lot of my patients know that they could be open with me. So we have a good dialogue about that, my men and my women patients. So yeah, I'm always open with that.
Good. If you have a client who don't like taking medication, either, swallowing pills, or I'm going to forget to take them, or what other options are there for people who don't want to take pills?
Okay, so we have therapy, and then there's also a new procedure called transcranial magnetic stimulation. And I'm going to be offering those services in the upcoming months. And transcranial magnetic stimulation is a procedure where we're placing magnetic pulses into the depressive center of the brain. It's FDA approved for major depressive disorder and OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So it's a non-invasive treatment, and pretty much a patient would have to come about 5 days a week for about a 6 to 9 week period, and they're getting these treatments. But the provider will have to see if they qualify for that, or they meet certain, based off their insurance, if they meet certain requirements, such as did they fail or have tried 2 to 4 medications? Have they done therapy? So transcranial magnetic stimulation is, I'm going to be offering that services with Genesis TMS and Wellness. That's another a new business venture that I'm going to be offering patients with Genesis Psychiatric Solutions and Genesis TMS and Wellness. So if med management is not the thing, we could do it. But if there's a patient that doesn't want to be medication, we could also look into doing just transcranial magnetic stimulation. So this is a game changer in a lot of people's lives, because who wants to struggle with depression or OCDs, intrusive thoughts? And you could get this treatment, which could be about 20 minutes of your time every day. You sit in a nice, relaxed chair. You're either watching TV or whatever, that setting, and there you're just chilling with the nice tech that's helping you out. And then you go on and you get these magnetic pulses and you go on with your day.
So you said this is a 6 to 9 month process for 5 days a week?
Week. Yeah.
6 to 9 weeks total.
About 6 to 9 week process. And it's 5 days a week because you have to be consistent with it. And what happens is the initial meeting, they come to the doctor, they're going to do brain mapping to see where exactly they're going to be placing the magnetic pulses. And then once that's set, then they'll be coming every day in that short period of time, getting their treatments. And then after that, they can move on, and with their lives, continue seeing the doctor for check-ins to see if they will need a booster, maybe later down in a few months or whatnot, but it's whatever the treatment plan they plan. So you got therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, ECT, electric convulsive therapy, which is a little bit more invasive, but it does do a great job. So there's a lot of options out there, and even off-label ketamine infusions, that's off-label, and they're doing a lot of research on psychedelics to see if that helps. But if somebody wanted no medications, the TMS, ECT, and therapy are great options.
Wow. I can hear someone asking though, are you saying that if I come 5 days a week for 20 minutes or so for 6 to 9 weeks, that I'm cured?
Oh, there's no cure. No cure. I want to be very clear about that. It could help you. It's just like if you're taking medication or doing therapy, it could possibly work or not, but this is FDA approved. Just like therapy, you're doing therapy, it may work. You're taking a medication, it may work. So we always have to look at it just like from that, but it's never a cure. It's just the goal is to reduce or eliminate symptoms. And there are patients who do it and it doesn't work. So you just gotta find different modalities to help that person out.
What about people who choose the natural remedy route? They don't want to take psychotropic medication. They don't do anything with the licensed physician, a doctor. They don't want to do anything with you all. They want to do some natural things. Do you recommend natural remedies, herbs, and different things like that?
For me, I'm not going to knock that in, because whatever they want to do with the natural herbs, and there's naturopathic doctors, people that specialize in that, because that's out of my scope with that, because I didn't train that way. But for some natural products that I would recommend, would be like melatonin, L-theanine, magnesium, things you could get over the counter that help with that. Chamomile, like chamomile tea, because there's some products that are natural that can help people with sleep, and that's a big problem. But most of the time, I'm recommending the FDA approved medications.
Yeah. Any final thoughts for people who are seeking or contemplating getting mental health services, seeing a doctor? Any final thoughts for them?
Yeah, don't let the stigma of mental health hold you back. You have your whole life, and you're not a disorder. You're a person that happens to have a disorder. So I want you, all the men listening to this, and even women not listening to this, you have a quality life, you have a purpose here on earth. So connect with somebody, and looking for a provider is just like dating. You may find the right one and you connect off the bat, and that's your doctor, your therapist. But if you don't, find the next one and look to see if somebody is culturally competent and gets you and understands you and provides you care. And if you're dealing with a doctor that's only seeing you for 5 minutes and is all right, bye, go. Yeah, that's not for you, because they're not going to get to know you. So find somebody that's going to take time to get to know you, because we're dealing with your mental health. And also, if you can, have your family involved in your, collaborate where, collateral information is good, or just because people observe you. So, in your mental health journey, if you feel comfortable with the people in your lives, include them in your mental health journey, because the more people you have involved, positive support, then you'll do better. But if there's people that are toxic, then you don't want to include them in there, because they'll be hindering your progress.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lele, for being on Fatherless Fathers podcast. I hope people check you out on social media. He's the medical director of
Genesis Psychiatric Solutions.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
You've been listening to Fatherless Fathers Podcast with Moses D. Powe, CEO of Powe Publishers and author of the One Book, and Sean Moses is Martin Luther the King Jr. If you enjoyed today's show, please tune in on my website, mosespowe.com. That's MOSESPOWE.com, or anywhere where podcasts are available. Thank you for listening.